All right, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on my thoughts. Quite yet. I guess let's just get into it because this is huge news for a couple of different reasons. We'll get into that. But as reported by Forbes, according to the box office, Joker has become the most profitable comic book movie ever. Now, it's important that you guys understand what the concept of profitable means. It does not mean like it's the highest grossing comic book movie. Obviously, there are going to be Marvel films that outpaced it in that regards. This is profitable, meaning that they spent X amount of money in versus how much they spent versus how much they made. It's become the most profitable comic book movie ever. Now, with that being said, it says with 304.2 million in North America after 5 weeks in theaters, Joker's new global cumulative is around 953 million, presuming its 32% domestic, 68% overseas split holds. Then it will have a new global cumulative of around 957 million by tonight. And this is November the 8th, 2019. That will be 15.3 times its 62.5 million production budget, which will make the Todd Phillips directed and Joaquin Phoenix starring drama more profitable in terms of budget versus global gross than Jim Carrey's The Mask. Man, the most profitable big comic book movies are Venom. I do remember them saying that made a lot of money versus how much they spent on it. Batman, Deadpool, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Mask, and the new Joker is 900. And they're giving all of these prices. I'm not gonna go through it that much. That means DC Films and Warner Bros. Joker is the most profitable comic book movie of all time. In a skewed way, Joker represents every studio's dream. In that it's a mid-budget 2D title that's pulling off top-tier blockbuster business without relying on China. That it happens to be in that's the thing that we're going to discuss as well, that it happens to be a rated R psychological drama and a bonus of sorts, as it's the third cheapest 900 million grosser of all time, behind Bohemian Rhapsody. What else? What does it say? Lion King was 1994. When it tops 1 billion worldwide in the next week or so, it'll be the cheapest movie to do so, with a budget just under 63 million spent by Jurassic Park. They only spent 63 million on that in 1993. Which is a lot of money, I guess, back then. But still, I didn't know I would have thought it would have been a little more, but, who knows. So, yeah. This is interesting for a number of different reasons. Mainly because I don't think anybody really anticipated this. And it was odd that it made that much money. I guess it goes to show that I guess there's some sort of good promotion. But I saw a lot of, from, in terms of what the critics thought of it versus what just your average viewer. It was hard to anticipate that it would make this much money. Obviously, it being rated R film. And the approach, certainly among Hollywood, seems to be that, well, it's a rated R film. You cannot expect to make as much money as you would a movie that would appeal to others and maybe give it a PG 13 like sort of rating. But what this shows us is a couple of different things. I've been an advocate of DC not going the route of Marvel and trying to make these popcorn family oriented flicks, meaning that there's something for everybody in it, or they can get out of the movie, right? Whereas I think they should go the route, maybe like the DC Black Label stuff, and appeal to a more mature audience, as opposed to just trying to copy what Marvel's doing. I think they caught lightning in a bottle. And I think that they can set themselves apart by doing just that. And just saying, we're not going to have these restraints that we normally have. We're just going to make this specifically to appeal towards adults. They can do that with virtually every single character that exists, certainly all the main characters. And if you've read any of these comic books, you know that a lot of these books do have a more mature. They have books, not even including the DC label comics that exist right now. I'm talking in the main lines, of be it in action comics, detective comics, and such. You can see some of the top tier deals really a part of more mature audiences, or more, excuse me, part of more mature like storylines and such. And I think that this movie shows them something. Now, the obvious thing that a lot of people are going to discuss and going to be going on about is, well, they didn't go the route of CGI, like a Marvel would, and such. So none of the explosions and all of that is obviously wasn't enough money spent on it. And I want to be clear that I don't think it's that fair to try to criticize it or lack thereof, criticize Marvel for that, because I think that the type of movies that they put out, the type of characters that they utilize, is geared more towards that. I think with these characters that they're bringing in, it makes sense for them to have the more CGI. It just this worked very well with a character like Joker, no superpowers, and in the approach. That does not mean that Marvel couldn't do it with some of their characters. They absolutely could, absolutely could. I think Black Widow would knock it out the park with a rated R film, but this is, it works well for Joker, but I don't think that's crapping on Marvel, because they should be expected to spend all of the money. If DC brings in some of the, the Supermans of the world, they're going to have to spend money in that on that element as well. But I think the main takeaway for me, this is big news. This is big news because, for one, it wasn't in anticipation. It almost seems like Warner, and maybe this is just me, I'd love to know what you guys' thoughts about that. It almost seemed like they weren't ready for this. Like it was almost like yeah, okay, Todd, you can do this movie. It is what it is. Like, it doesn't really feel like they were really anticipating that this would be as popular as it was. And even when you look at it in terms of promotional scheme and what how it was marketed, and maybe I'm just tripping on this as well, but in terms of how it's marketed, let me get that off real quick. Hold on. There we go. But yeah, in terms of how it's marketed, I didn't see it everywhere like I did with some other things. Granted, yes, I saw a lot of it, but certainly not maybe to the degree of what I would see a blockbuster movie. This, and I think this is the more important thing, this was a movie that was really driven by I did not mean for this image to pop up right now. Let me get that off of there. Sorry about that. This seems to be a movie, and you can argue that all movies are like that, but this was a movie that for sure was driven by the consumer in terms of its success. And you can look at the dollar amount of any movie and you can say, well, isn't that the point? And yes, but no. This didn't have the backing in terms of what they spent on it and production costs, obviously, but also just in who was behind it. The Marvel, I mean, they're going to have everybody behind it. It's going to have all of this promotion, not even by people that Disney are paying. I'm talking about the content creators, everything, the media figures. They're going to praise it pretty much top to bottom, no matter what it is they do, no matter if it looks like crap, no matter whose legacy it craps. They don't care about any of that. Whereas to this one, it seemed like it was a more of an underground thing. It kind of flew under the radar. We knew it was coming. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of flew under the radar in comparison to what some of the DC, like Justice Leagues of the world and their movies. It flew under the radar in that regards. Consumers saw it, loved it, told their friends to go see it, and that's it. More people went to see it. It doesn't feel like a Marvel film where it's just blockbuster where everybody's gonna be. We know it's dropping. Everybody's got to come see it. It was almost one of those things that sort of flew under the radar. But I think DC can be onto something, and that's the thing that I take from this the most. As I hope that they're paying attention to this. You don't have to replicate what Marvel does. You can make rated R films. I think, me personally, I think they should go to the whole. I don't. It doesn't mean that they can make a universe that doesn't have maybe PG-13 films in it, but I certainly believe that they should specifically make movies and have a universe like maybe Marvel has in terms of the universe, but not making it popcorny, family oriented, make it more geared towards adult. It allows you to get a little more complex in terms of the storyline. It allows you to get a lot more complex in terms of Again, it's just geared towards a more mature audience, and I think that can benefit them because it'll set them on a different route in comparison to what Marvel is doing, as opposed to just trying to repeat exactly what they did, drop all these movies and then have a big clash. No, it can be a lot more than that. And I think that this will show them. This is obviously not part of an extended universe, but in the same respects, I hope that it shows them, Warner, that there is a market in it. Now, you can make the argument, and I know that a lot of other people are going to make the argument that, well, this is showing you that a solid story can really get people behind it, as opposed to just, spending a lot of money on CGI and the blockbuster X feel. This is going to be the movie of the year before it even comes out, which nobody really seemed to say that about Joker. I would love for them to obviously invest in doing more DC characters. I do want to be clear that I think that's part of it. If this was a movie that wasn't about Joker, it would have it wouldn't have done as well. But it was a fact because it was Joker, so they had the name tied to it. But also that kept them around. That got people talking about it more so when you consider the fact that it was just a decent film. The most profitable comic book. That's interesting. Most profitable comic book movie. That is certainly something that is, and again, like they didn't, like they said in the film, in this article, they were like, it didn't really rely upon the Chinese market, which is Marvel, obviously, and Disney does that a lot. And to me, I think that's interesting. I think that is certainly interesting. Maybe that'll stop from the MCU fanboys, if you will, and gals who think that even though I don't have any sort of allegiance to either of these companies, back there you should have a Marvel deal, I have a DC Comics plaque there that you can't really see in the camera. That's what the D is, DC Comics. I have no allegiance to them. I don't care about it in that regards. But anytime I say anything critical of the MCU, well, you a DC fanboy. Look at all this money that so-and-so made. So they did it with Captain Marvel. Now, maybe because this has topped all of those movies in terms of just it being profitable, maybe they'll shut up. Because it's one thing, you got to think about it. And this is why it's important to understand the difference between how much it got just outright in the box office versus how much it was in terms of profit, how much it made. I think that's an important thing, because yes, if you spend $500 million and you make $700 million, you could, yes, you can make a lot more, money in just a number in terms of a figure than another movie. But if a movie spent $20 million making it and they also got 700 million box office, then they're more profitable than the other. You know what I mean? So those are things that you need to take into consideration. The point is to make money at the end of the day. So this looks like it is going to be a billion dollar film. And more importantly, from a comic book perspective, I hope that the guys that have the money that are going to invest in future DC movies look at what made this successful. Not simply about the fact that it just made a lot of money. Look at what made it successful and how it was successful despite the odds, despite of having to go in an automatic comparison. People are going to compare it to Marvel no matter what. They're going up against that because the comic book films are it's just what it is right now. So they have to go up against that, and they also went against the rated R film. And there's this theme that people seem to think that aside from Deadpool, you're just hurting yourself in terms of viewership if you don't have a PG-13 movie. And now we have something like this. So hopefully it shows them. I have a video that you guys can go check out, and I discussed this and how it is of my honest opinion that DC should just make it an extended universe, film universe, cross it over into TV as well, and have it purposefully and just target adults. Don't worry about trying to appeal to all ages. Just no holds bar. Just make a mature universe. And that not only will set you apart from what Marvel is doing, you're seeing what you saw what happened with Joker. It can be done. You can see a lot of success and not have those necessary restraints that you maybe would have if you were trying to specifically drop a PG-13 movie. So hopefully they listen.